problem with the knee in this machine, the Z adjustment. When I go to adjust the table's Z axis, I get this clack, clack, clack sound and not a smooth movement at all. It's kind of scary, and I figured there's something wrong with the mesh of the bevel gears. What you're looking at now is the inside of the knee. This bevel gear is attached to the crank, and this one is attached to the elevating screw. And this is where I suspect the problem with the binding really lies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the table off, take off the saddle and the knee, and look at the gear teeth and see if there are any large burrs on the tops of the gear teeth that might be causing this problem. Well, I've got that all apart. I'll clean off and stone all the sliding surfaces. And I'm not going to show any of that in this video. That's going to have its own separate video. So I'll see you when I've got the knee there on the workbench. Here is the back of the knee now. This binding that I'm getting is a symptom of some other problem with the knee. I don't know if I'm getting less binding over here or not. And it's going to take me a while to find the root of that problem. What I want to do is find where in the gears travel the most binding is happening. I'm going to narrow that spot down to just a few teeth and file out a little bit of the spot on those teeth where the grinding is happening. I get into this area, and especially the tooth with the orange dot now, and I'm getting more interference. And it stays on until this point. And now we're back to finger loose again. Normally you would never file gear teeth. Removing any material from a tooth makes it weaker, especially when it's a tooth that's already getting a beating from the interference. But in this case I think I have to remove some small amount. Now let's have a look at the bearing raceway. Like it shows in the manual, this bronze plain bearing sticks out from the casting. How far out it sticks is what sets the lash of the bevel gears. And I've got it set to 305, which is in the ballpark of 5/16 of an inch. So this spot with the white dot was where I was getting binding, and I'm going to see if the shaft is running a little eccentric, because that might be the cause of this going on. So just to kind of remember this better. Let's go over to the lathe and check this for runout. We're getting 3/1000ths of runout over here where the bearing will ride on this spot. Let's go over to where the other bearing will ride. Now watch the white dot there as it comes in contact with the probe on the indicator. And that's about where I'm getting the most runout. We're getting 9/1000ths. And that's a difference of just 6/1000ths from this end where the bearing is to this end where a bearing is. I'd like to measure the runout along this along the axis like this as well. Go to zero that there. So end to end, that's 3/1000ths. But that's really a change in the diameter from one end to another. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that information. I'm going to go for one more pass filing the 4 teeth around where I've got that center punch mark where I was getting the most binding. And that might be hopefully what I got to do. But luckily, I'm about to determine just what the problem is here before I take off too much from these teeth. Now, call me crazy, but it looks like we're missing something here. You know, I don't think that the bearing is really doing anything unless it's contacting, you know, more than one thing. Let's see what the space in there is. Here's 126. Let's go a little further up than that. 130. That still goes in real easy. Here's 140. Feeling a little drag. How does 141 fit? $141 will go in. $142 will not go in. Okay. I think I will make some kind of spacer that is 141 thousandths of an inch thick. I've been thinking some more about this whole business of the space between the bottom of the casting and the bearing, and it's making me think that that might be the reason why we're in this mess in the first place. Let me put this all back together and maybe I could demonstrate what I'm talking about a little better. We've got the whole weight of the knee, the whole weight of the saddle, and the whole weight of the table and whatever else is on top of the table, pushing all that down, and it's pushing on the elevating screw. The elevating screw with nothing, you know, closing this gap here, and really the closing this gap here, I think, it's forcing the two gears into mesh. And now we've got the whole weight of all that on the gear teeth. I wonder if that might explain the run out in the shaft. Do you think it's possible that that might have bent the shaft? I don't know about that, but I do know that this ball bearing is doing nothing. If there's no load on it, it's a thrust bearing, it can't be doing its job. So I'm going to make a bushing and see if we can close this gap, and when I put the knee back on the machine and all that, we'll see if that makes it behave differently. So what I want to see is that the thrust bearing will now contact the top of the casting here. That new bushing is on. Now this thrust bearing makes contact with the top of the casting. And really, now it's actually doing what it's there to do. Are we still hand loose? Yeah, we're kind of barely hand loose at the binding spot. But I'm going to stop there. I'd say I'm ready to reassemble this. Well, bad news. I was stoning just the burrs off of the gib and working kind of on the edge of the table because there's so much going on there. I dropped it, kind of even broke its fall with my foot, but the gib cracked. I've heard about the knee gibs cracking on these machines. You know, there it goes. It's cast iron, and so it's brittle. Boy, am I disappointed. But, well, it may have been on its way there anyway. It breaks at quite a weak point. Now we're on to the saddle, and there is something to do here in the saddle. There's a broken off screw, and that broken screw is where the Y-axis cable lock was. And that's it right there. And lucky for me, this screw is loose. So I'm going to try to just back this thing out. And here it comes. There we go. Now the knee is back on, and let's see how this thing's performing. Look at this. Look how easy that is. Look at that. Just like it should be. Now, was that the gear or was that the washer that I made? I would say it was more the washer, the spacer, whatever it was. But look at this. I can actually use the graduated dial dependably. I'm so glad that this is finally fixed. I can still feel just the slightest amount of interference right there, and that's every other turn. I suppose these gears are 2 to 1. Right there is where I feel that interference spot, but it's miles away from where it was. It's now certainly over the edge of unusable to usable. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Little by little, this milling machine is becoming a fully functional piece of equipment here. I'd like to say thank you to the community at Chasky.org. I posted something there and got a lot of good feedback that was real helpful in fixing this thing. Thank you for watching. There we are, 3 inches and 3/8. Definitely the most taxing job this little power hacksaw has had to perform. Now let's saw off another one.